Good morning, good morning, good morning again, folks. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels, and we are going back to the horrible world known as the JRC. But before we do, the usual disclaimers. If you are unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, please, you will find all the pertinent links right there in the description box. Hold on, something in my teeth. Sorry, I don't have an edit button. Bothers me. OCD in the morning, especially. In particular, I want you to take note of the article in there written by NeuroClastic, a small non for profit starting by autistics for autistics. It is an article. There we go, finally got it. Where they interviewed and surveyed over 900 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's so-called behavior modification program. No, I didn't. The JRC in particular feels so threatened by this particular article that they have threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. NeuroClastic has refused, of course, so please read that article, share it on all your social media. We got their public statement linked in there in regards to defamation lawsuit threat, as well as their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding in case the JRC decides to see through with their threat because none of us are multimillionaires. Also, please pay pertinent attention by the article linked in there by Ozarks First in regards to the Agape boarding school situation, a so-called Christian-themed boarding school that is based out of Stockton, Missouri, that is a part of the chain of evangelical schools that have come under major controversy over the last few years. This so-called boarding school for so-called trouble teens has and pending over 21 civil lawsuits, claims, and allegations that have been leveled against it, including sodomy, rape, sexual assault, child abuse, psychological and emotional abuse, child trafficking, and folks, that's just barely ripping at the surface here. This place has been investigated by the FBI, and although thankfully they tried to pull a fast one and it didn't work, mainly because the public won't send boys to the places like that in this state anymore, it's still relevant. And the reason why is schools like this will take employees from Agape and pass them down the line to the other evangelical schools that go in a line across the Bible Belt from coast to coast. All right? Pay attention. All right? Okay. Trigger warning when we discuss places like Agape Boarding School for Boys and the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center. You're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips or surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you got your young kids present, at the very least, please use your headphones. Trigger warning, this channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We do use profanity on occasion and we speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and they are watching this, parental supervision is advised. All right, folks. So I'm just kind of cackling in the back of my head like a lunatic villain cackle at factual background. We're going to be dehumanized. We're going to be depicted as two-dimensional Disney villain level. I know it is, but they're out of control. You'll kill themselves. They'll kill others. If I have to continue to listen to y'all's justifications for continuing this torture by continuing to treat people like me like we're subhuman fucking human beings, you might see some of that behavior. Treat someone like an animal long enough. You know the saying, right? The Judge Rotenberg Educational Center is a facility in Massachusetts that treats. If that's treatment, please treat me with a bullet. Because I'd rather be dead than sent to that special level Disney on an acid trip nightmare fuel hell. Just put a bullet. Reboot time. Reboot time. That treats patients with severe, here we go, here we're going to start with this language, severe mental disabilities. This is the line places like this and places like Agape always tote. They want to paint us immediately as individuals who are completely out of control. The type of individuals that the only thing we understand is when violence is committed against us. Okay? They use it using the very same justification an abusive parent might use to explain their horrific behavior towards their own kids. Okay? The center admits patients that other facilities could not successfully treat. That is a lie. It's a lie we've gone over in detail on this channel, but that the DC Circuit Court and the Massachusetts State Courts don't want you to know. Because the truth is, these kiddos, before being shoved off to the Judge Rotenberg Center, are not getting full functional assessments done. A full functional assessment is ground zero for any form of a treatment program to be created that's going to have any level of actual effectiveness. If you do not have that assessment done, you are flying blind. It is the equivalent of being a Google doctor, researching things and throwing things at the kid, praying that it sticks. And when it doesn't, you kick the can down the road. All right? This is a lie, an exposed lie, I might add. Kitten's like, Mommy, ma'am, I'm gonna need you to calm down. Calm down and pet the cat, ma'am. Just pet the cat, ma'am. I'm sorry, but every time they tote that line, especially judges. Yeah. According to the center, some of its patients suffer from severe, here we go, we're going to hammer in the word severe. We're going to do this so that we can basically imprint upon the minds of the less knowledgeable public that, well, but they're severe though, right? They use these words for a reason, folks. They are banking on that systemic ableism. They are banking on that you bought the Kool-Aid every April so that you can excuse this as the only thing we understand is violence. Okay? I'm gonna blow a gasket reading this on our tie. Self-injurious and aggressive behaviors that are difficult or impossible to treat using conventional behavioral or pharmacological techniques. We all know this is a lie, Karen. If you are trying to treat someone and you've not done a full functional assessment, what are you even doing? You're not getting anywhere because there's been no foundation built. I'll even go biblical here. You remember that parable about building your house on sand without a solid foundation? The same applies to medicine, folks. If you do not do the groundwork, you're not going to get anywhere. All right? But the judges at the DC Circuit Court, places like JRC and Autism Speaks, they don't want you to know that. But I'll tell you, because not only am I autistic, I've also worked in this field and I know what needs to be done when getting started with a treatment program, especially for when kids are transition age and they're just getting diagnosed right then, because that's my area of expertise. The most common self-injurious behaviors include headbanging and self-biting. Here we go again. But they dislocated their retina and they're biting. So what we'll do is inflict more violence upon them. And this makes sense to the DC Circuit Court. Really. The behaviors of some patients are extreme enough that they have suffered self-inflicted brain trauma, broken and protruding bones, and blindness, and yet still a full functional assessment has not been done. We've done no homework. We just thinking that they're doing this for no reason out of left field because they're brain damaged and we must respond with violence. Did these people get their degrees from medieval universities? It's like bloodletting for everything wrong with you. Seriously. In my expertise, having actually worked this field, you may ask me, okay, in your life and what you have witnessed as being an advocate on this side of the people who are having these behaviors, what do you have to say? I'm glad you asked, Karen. I got a lot to say. A lot of these self-injurious behaviors are caused from one of two things. Severe sensory issues or trauma. Some of us who had more severe types of self-injurious behaviors when they were a kid, like myself, had both at the same time. Okay? Now take your typical neurotypical. This neurotypical has been horrifically abused. As they get older, they maybe not engage in the self-harm that is more visible, such as ours, but they engage in alcoholism, in drugs, in cutting. Now, in that neurotypical, are we going to strap them to an electrical device and shock them at just below the lethal limit in order to stop their self-injurious and reckless behavior? No. You want to talk about torches and pitchforks? Because that's what would happen. So why is it justifiable for someone like me having similar self-injurious behaviors that are less comfortable for neurotypicals to wrap their brain around, subjected to this? And call it treatment, when we do not use said same treatment for the neurotypical who's exhibiting the exact same behaviors. And before you tell me neurotypicals never do it this bad, suicide idolation, Karen. All right? So, what would I suggest then to stop this self injurious behavior in an autistic person who can't tell us what's wrong? That's your problem, Karen. You believe that your kid can't tell you what's wrong. And you don't know what else to do because you've been listening to doctors from day one because that is what society has conditioned you to do. The fact of the matter is, we can tell you what's wrong. We do tell you what's wrong daily, whether it's through forms of behavior, through gestures, even from semi-vocal utterances. We are trying to tell you what is wrong, and you refuse to learn to communicate with us. Okay? These are the reasons why full functioning assessments are so goddamn important. Because then there's no justification with treating self-injurious behavior by simply replacing me abusing myself with another stranger abusing me instead. Okay? There's a lot of problems here, but this whole thing of detailing how bad injuries are from self-injurious behavior to use as a justification so that more violence and pain can be brought onto the person, but somehow it's justifiable because it's a complete stranger with certifications behind their name, doesn't make it make any more sense. All right. All right. If we are not using the same form of treatments on neurotypicals who are exhibiting the exact same type of behaviors, then why are we using it on disabled people? I can tell you. Because the neurotypical brain can wrap its mind around a neurotypical kid with PTSD self-medicating through means of drugs and alcohol. They can wrap around their brain a teen who's dealing with immense trauma cutting themselves. The reason why they get their noses out of joint in regards to us atypicals who engage in self-injurious behavior, because it is done in a manner that greatly disturbs them emotionally. Seeing a kid ram their head full force into a wall repeatedly. Seeing a kid biting themselves. These are not forms of self-injurious behavior that have been accepted by society as a whole. Okay? And because it disturbs them, because they can't wrap the brain around the fact that the reasons that the atypical is engaging in self-injurious behavior and that the reason that the neurotypical kid is could be exactly the same thing doesn't come into play because of how that self-injurious behavior is happening. Okay? Does it make a little bit more sense now? Now, here's the part that the neurotypical peers who engage in similar behavior don't have to deal with at quite the same level that we do, and that is sensory plays a huge role. in a way that is hard to explain and to help neurotypicals understand. Because by and large, neurotypicals can't smell and taste color, nor can they taste or feel on their skin the sound of a drill. How pastel colors may make us feel like our skin is burning. How a certain smell is so bad, a texture is so bad, minus the smell, that it will induce in us immense, huge, large amounts of mind numbing pain. Affecting us to the point that it can cause us to have physical illness, bust out into hives, drive us into horrific migraines, cause us literally being in a pastel room makes me feel like my skin is on fire and like somebody just took out both of the back of my kneecaps with a baseball bat. This does not make coherent sense to the neurotypical mind. I know it doesn't. But do you remember when you were a kid, if you're a Gen Xer especially, when you would have stomach issues and somebody would then offer to bend back your fingers so that you would no longer feel the stomach pain, you would feel another pain? Same kind of weird neuron firing logic here, folks. What we need in these situations and what can be developed when a actual real full functional assessment is done and done properly is reasonable accommodations, assistive devices when necessary, ways of combating these sensory issues, assistive devices when needed in order to communicate the issues, the trauma that we may be going through and feeling that is leading to this self injurious behavior. See, this is what happens, but nobody lays the groundwork. And these are the justifications that are used to continue to further on our suffering, our pain, and our torture. We're going to close on that. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few that we do tend to get removed from time to time. So, folks, please don't forget to hit that like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time this morning. And as always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea do hope you have a good one. Again, we'll see you next week.